Howdy, folks. How are we doing today? Welcome in to Chill with Clayton, episode number 21. We're so excited to have y'all here today. As y'all seen in last week's episode, you get to see the craziness of Texas weather. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt right now as we speak, and last week I was in sweats and jeans. Welcome to Texas, folks. That's how I say it. But we're so happy to have y'all here today on this episode. Remember, tell your friends about our show. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. It is free to do so. And hey, we'll get our quality content out to other people who have been looking for this kind of quality content. You can help spread this show around by telling your friends, your family, your co-workers, whoever. You could go tell it. Go tell it on the, go tell. But we also have our Chill with Clayton everyday daily Bible verse that you can check out on our Instagram page. We also have the Chill with Clayton group page on Facebook. We also have the Chill with Clayton email, chillwithclayton@gmail.com. Remember, come on the show, ask questions, give us topics. We'd love to hear from your audience, the audience as well. Okay, folks. So yesterday, I went to a concert called the Campus Nights Tour. It's like specifically like for colleges. It was being held at University of Texas, Arlington. By the way, if there are any Aggie fans or Longhorns, that concert is also going to be in Austin and Aggie Land. So hopefully y'all got your tickets as well down there. But as I was saying, it was being headlined by Josiah Queen and Holvey, which are two of my favorite artists right now in the Christian music scape. So me and my buddy Dylan actually got some great pictures. He got some great videos for y'all because he is a great videographer, and we can't wait to show you those shots and those videos of the concert. And I get to tell you all about my experience of the concert, so it's going to be a lot of fun. That will be coming out tomorrow at 2 p.m., part of the Chill with Clayton Extras. As you all know, this is being filmed earlier in the week, but the videos always come out on Friday. So with it being on Friday, Extra comes out on Saturday. That's how you remember. So folks, let's get in with the topic of the day today, which is missions. Now, I know a lot of you would know probably what a mission is, but the thing is, there might be some of our audience that doesn't quite know what a mission is, and hey, welcome in. This definition of mission comes from the Oxford Dictionary here. It says this right here. Like a Christian mission, like what we're going to be talking about today, is the vocation or calling of a religious organization, especially a Christian one, to go out into the world and spread its faith. Other similarities could be a vocation, a calling, or a pursuit, or, stuff like that. But that's exactly what a mission is. That's the mission, what I'm talking about today in this episode. So we're going to talk about the first missions that happened in the Bible. Of course, we know about Abraham. Now, Abraham was one of the first descendants in Genesis. He was told by God that he would have many, many relatives, as many as the hairs on his head, if I'm correct with that. But it's like, and he's like, wait. And at the time, Abraham is like above 100 years old. So he is quite old. He is very, very wise and knowledgeable at this time. But God is so miraculous that he gave him a son when he was like maybe in his mid 100s with his wife Sarah. And then they had their son Isaac. And then he had his sons Jacob and Esau. And then it just kind of kept going and going and going. And God kept his promise to Abraham, even though Abraham was like, this seems crazy at the beginning. But that's kind of like how the first missions kind of came about. You kind of think about these Old Testament guys. You think of like a David in this instance. You think of Isaiah. You think of Elijah and Elisha. You think of Jeremiah. You think of all of those main guys that kind of were in the back half of the Old Testament. Daniel is a big one. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, even though those guys weren't considered missionaries, but in a technical concept, they are considered a missionary because they're going out and spreading the gospel. but like they really didn't do it all the time, but they like stood up for the gospel in that kind of case. But as we get into the New Testament, we talk about like Paul, we talk about Jesus, we talk about the 12 disciples. Timothy gets mentioned. And those guys had some great mission escapades. Of course, y'all know most of the missions from Jesus. I mean, even if it's feeding the 5,000 or his big like events that almost seem like would probably fill up maybe, I'd say honestly, maybe a stadium, honestly, nowadays. Like, because like, or even at least a pretty decent sized concert hall or a pretty decent sized stadium. Because many people wondered, like, who is this Jesus? I need to hear him. I need to hear him. I hear all about these miracles. I want to go check him out. And that's kind of how the missionaries kind of begun. You kind of gotten in with the disciples. You had the Great Commission, which happens in Matthew 28, verses 19 through 20. You had that going on, and everybody's kind of going like, as God kind of tells them, hey, we're going to go out into the nations of every tribe, of every tongue, every nation, and we're gonna make sure that everybody gets to know the gospel of Jesus Christ. So like now we have like all these different missionaries. You hear from like Philip, who talked with the Ethiopian eunuch. You talk about like all these other people as the spread of Christianity heads out west. From, because the beginning of Christianity happened in the Middle East with Israel, Jerusalem. As it headed that way, it also headed out east. Like God wanted to head it out in every single direction. And now when you look at modern society, it is still going to this day. Now, there are some countries, of course, that it's a little more harder to go into, and you have to have a lot of faith in God, even though God will be providing for you in those moments, even though it can feel scary at the same time. That still people desperately need the gospel, because those countries are unfortunately like, no, we're against it. We're not going to let you spread the name of the gospel, or we're going to put you in jail, which happened to guys like Paul, Peter. I mean, it happened in the older time. It happened in biblical times as well. And it's still happening in these modern day times as well. So you still do have a bunch of missionaries going out right now. Even though it is a little more difficult with wars and government fun, all the different craziness that's going around the world, but there are still missionaries going out there and spreading the gospel. Now, let me tell you about my experience with missions. All right, so now we're going to get into my experience with missions. Now, when I was a kid, I really didn't know much about missions until we got after my injury, which I talk about actually in my testimony video, which, quick summary on that. I ended up playing, I didn't really play football, but I was the team water boy. Ended up getting injured, fell off the bleachers, fractured my hip, fractured my wrist, ended up at the hospital. Pastor comes see me. Ends up, inviting me to church and all that. And it's like, okay, like, let's do this then. So I'm officially back home in Wiley in my middle of seventh and going into, or specifically 8th grade year. So I'm kind of learning the new kind of student ministry side of things. I'm, wondering like, okay, like who do I meet in here and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm trying to introduce myself, because if you know me personally, Clayton Ensley, I'm a very outgoing personality. Like, I want to go out there and like introduce myself to people, and I want to talk a lot. I'm very talkative, very, very talkative. So, I mean, I want to be like very friendly with people. And that's in that moment where I was like, okay, I need to like, can I just at least find some friends out here? So we hear about this event called Mission Wiley. Now, to summarize what Mission Wiley was an event in the summertime. It was usually the first or second week after school got out here in Texas, which would be so we got out of school like in late May. So it'd be like early June, because like it'd usually go Mission Wiley, VBS, then we go on to summer camp. Like, it was like a big 3-week stretch. So to summarize what Mission Wiley was, we met at my church in at the Cross Church slash First Baptist Wiley, Church of Wiley out here in Wiley, Texas, where I live. And we ended up staying at the church. So we bring like our own sleeping bags. We'd bring our own snacks. We'd bring everything. But what Mission Wiley really was to go out into the community and go help out in like service to people, or go out to our calling, which is out in Dallas, which cares for like the homeless and the needy, which is a very, very big time out there. I ended up going out there, I want to say like in 2017, which was the first year of Mission Wiley. Other things that we did at Mission Wiley was World Vision, which I believe is out in, I want to say Carrollton. I want to say it's Carrollton or Grand Prairie. I believe it's Carrollton though. But we went out to World Vision. We got to pack these boxes for kids. We got to give them like some Bibles, some just good life needs they need in their life. We got to pack those up for them, and it was so awesome to kind of do that. Like, you're in the middle of a warehouse, but you're with like a selection from 7th graders to 12th graders, because that's the kind of range we had from junior high to high school, which is kind of like how it was in Wiley. Now, was there some other schools where it was like maybe the first half, the second third of middle school to high school? Yeah, that could be also like with Garland, like they go 6th, 7th, and 8th in middle school, which, yeah. But, yeah, we had 7th through 12th graders. They kind of help out. Also, during Mission Wiley, we went out into the community, especially into the trailer park communities. We'd go out and do, like, these fun little sports camps. We'd go out and play foursquare, soccer, kickball, football. Just have a lot of fun with these kids. We'd even have a Bible study with them, getting to know them and help them out. We went to the schools and helped out over there, like with the kids who are, needing a lunch for the summer, because there are families out there who are desperately in need for food still at this time as well. But at the time as well, there were still families that needed food as well. And we go out and have that kind of same thing. We'd have, one year we had like a sports camp for kids. I remember I had to do baseball, maybe a little bit of football, a little bit of soccer, a little bit of basketball. But it was just so fun to get to know all these kids, and you'd have high schoolers kind of helping. The coaches from each high school would bring in representatives to help out with the camps. And it was a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun to go help out in the community. We got to help one time an older lady move into her house, which was really enjoyable. You just felt really, really joyful when you were helping out with these families and just helping them out. And it was a great time. And then, of course, after the missions, we also got to go out to Hawaiian Falls, got to have worship. We got to just hang out with our friends. We got Sonic runs, if you remember the Sonic runs. We had just a lot of fun and activities, and it was just a great time doing Mission Wiley. Another thing I remember also doing a mission was during summer camp of 2018, when we were down in South Padre Island. This was the year after Hurricane Harvey struck, which was one of the most devastating hurricanes in the state of Texas, besides the most recent one, which I think it was named Beryl. I think it was Beryl. Mike can fact check me on that one. But after Hurricane Harvey, we were down there in South Padre Island, and my pastor Lloyd, he was very well loved to do community outreach programs for the community. And we wanted to do something while we were down in South Padre, while we could still go hang out at the beach every now and then. We could go still hang out, go view the town, go see the town, which was one of my favorite camp trips ever. But one day we ended up going out to this kind of a trailer park kind of a area out in South Padre, and we just went around and painted people's houses. We just went out for the day and just helped people paint their house. That's all we did, because we knew these families were really struggling after Harvey hit in 2017. But it was really cool just to see you're just helping paint these families' houses, and you're just a group of 7th through 12th graders. At the time I was in 8th grade, or at the time I was a 9th grader, and I'm just like, man, like, who knew like all these kids could get together from a town maybe a few hours down the road, still here in the state of Texas, but help a family down in South Padre. Like, that is so stinking cool. It is so stinking cool to go help out people. And I really haven't gone on to like a big mission yet, which I hope I get to do that one day. But man, like, I know there's still many of you who have mission experiences. We'd love for you to put them down in the comments. Like, if you've been into Florida or around the world. I mean, I know many friends who have been around the world going out and doing missionary stuff. And it's just so awesome to hear that. So please put your mission stories down in the comments below, and I'd love to read them and just see like what you've done, and just see like how you've glorified God through those times. And that's the one thing I always want you all to remember with missions. At the beginning of every mission, sometimes I'd like to think of myself going like, yeah, I did that. But it's like, no. God helped me did that. God helped me do that. This is all for the glory of God. Like that family that got their house painted, yeah, it was my two hands that did it, but it was because that God gave me that opportunity that I got to go do that. So yeah, that's what you got to remember. Remember, God gives you the opportunity to go on missions. You just got to accept them. There you go, folks. Let's get into the Bible verses of the week. All right, folks, here is our Bible verse of the week. This comes from the NIV. This comes from Psalm chapter 96, verse 3. Declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all peoples. And that is just a big time mission statement right there. Declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all peoples. So what that verse kind of means is just go out into the world and go spread the gospel. It doesn't care how old you are. You could be 5 or 6 years old, or you could be 80 to 90 years old. You could be anywhere, and heck, I don't know, there could be a baby that could even go missionary. I don't know if that be possible, but hey, it could just point at the Bible verse and go, look at that. Like, hey, might have done something like that. God's a miraculous God, so he can make it happen somehow. But yeah, it doesn't matter like what stage of life you're in, you're called to be a missionary. Now, you might not be called to be the job of a missionary, like go out and talk to people like for, like as your main living job. But even if you're like a teacher or a doctor or a student or an office worker or whatever you could think of, you could go out and tell people about Jesus. I mean, you could tell them in the grocery store. You could tell them at church. You could tell them in the school. You could tell them at the DMV if you wanted to. You could tell them when you're going around on your family trips. You could tell them anytime. Now, the thing is, will there be people that won't accept it? Yes. Because yes, I was even out in downtown McKinney this week, and I talked to people, and they were like, no, I don't want to hear that. I'd rather not hear that. I'd rather not. And, and that will happen. That will happen sometimes. But don't let that be discouraging you. You still planted a seed in somebody. And even though they might not know it yet, and especially if you're like with kids or someone who just doesn't quite get it yet, trust me, they'll get eventually to knowing it, as long as they know, like, hey, like, if God's there with me in it, I'm going to be there for it. Like, what I mean by that is like, there's many times where you have to plant that seed and they'll finally get it. And hopefully they will. Now, if it doesn't happen, well, that's their own decision, unfortunately. And they have to live with that. Because you have brought them the good news of the gospel. You brought them the good news. You brought them saying, hey, like, first you got to admit you're a sinner. You got to believe that Jesus is Lord. You got to confess your sins. Then you can be up with Jesus in heaven, Or if you don't make that decision, you're going to be down in hell, which that's the reality that we have to live with now. And God wants to make sure, he wants to give a chance to everybody all around the world to have that chance, to have that shot to go, okay, I'm in heaven with you, or no, I'd rather be down in hell, which that is a terrible decision. Just saying. I'd rather want you all to be up in heaven because that's where the party's going to be happening. While in hell, it's going to be lonely and it's not going to be fun. I'd rather let you be glorifying God and worshiping God with the King of Kings, your creator. That's where I want you to be. That's the main message of a missionary. My church has this saying, spreading God's fame by making disciples of all people. That is the mission statement of a missionary right there. Other Bible verses you need to check out this week if you want to include Mark 16:15, Acts 1:8, Romans 10:14 through 15, Luke 24:47, Psalm 22:27, and Isaiah 6:8, which is one of my favorites, which says, when God goes to Isaiah, he goes, who shall I send? Isaiah goes, here I am, Lord, send me. If you're like that person, hey, congratulations, you have become a missionary. And if you don't feel like you're qualified to be a missionary, hey, God picked some of the most unqualified people around, and they thought they were unqualified just as you, and God did a miraculous thing with you. So, hey, if you got an office that's doesn't feel the gospel, hey, God will help you through that. If you don't feel like you can tell your friends at school because you feel like you're going to get bullied about it, hey, God will help you find people that will believe in the gospel with you and help you out. That's how this thing works. Remember, God's going to be with you whenever you're talking about the gospel. You are never alone in the conversation. And hey, one thing I always like to do is bring a buddy along and say, hey, will you just be there for me and support in case if I forget something? Then they can kind of help you out with like a little catch up, because two heads are better than one, as you know what I mean. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's episode of Chill with Clayton. I hope y'all enjoyed it today. Episode 21 of the series. My goodness, I was about to say 21. Okay, yeah, Gen Z humor. Oh well. Deal with it. I'm a goofball. Oh well. But yeah, folks, I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. Remember to like and subscribe. Tell your friends and family about the show. Can't wait to show you the concert coming up from yesterday. Can't wait to show y'all the fun of that. That's coming out tomorrow in the Chill With Clayton Extras. Remember that. So, hey, click that little notification bell. It'll be right there for you at 2 o'clock. Be right there for you. And at 6 o'clock every Friday. So, guys, as I always say, remember, don't mess with Texas. God bless. Keep Jesus first. And I will see y'all later. Adios and yeehaw!